Hello, I'm Roxanne Aaron, President of American Tennis Association. Thank you for joining me. I'd like to share with you some information about an important tennis player, woman tennis player in our time. Her name was Alice Marble. As we come to the end of Women's History Month, I want to recognize this woman because of the significant role and leading public proponent and catalyst that she made in order for Althea Gibson to break the color barrier in US tennis. She was the first to publicly address the sports segregation practices and challenge the establishment. She wrote her historical editorial in 1950 in American Tennis Magazine. She denounced the all-white US Lawn Tennis Association policy of excluding African Americans from competition. As a result of her editorial, Gibson, then 23, was invited to play the 1950 US National Championships, now the US Open, and won the championship that year. Alice Marble was an American tennis player who won 18 Grand Slam championships, 5 in singles, 6 in women's doubles, and 7 in mixed doubles. She was ranked in the world top 10 from 1936 to 1939, reaching a career high in those rankings, a world number 1 in 1936 and 1940. And a little something else about Alice Marble. She was also a fashion trendsetter. She dared to wear white shorts on the courts in 1939 instead of the long skirts that women were required to wear at the time. She was indeed a woman ahead of her time. I want to now introduce Art Carrington, the American Tennis Association historian. And now Art will share with you additional information about this wonderful, extraordinary woman, Alice Marble.
Glad to be here with you, Roxanne, and glad to share this information. So I'd like to start by reading an article that was in the Afro-American newspaper, August 26, 1944. And let me begin. Democracy in Action, New York. Bertram L. Baker, Secretary of the American Tennis Association, spoke in glowing terms of the liberal attitudes of Alice Marble and Mary Hardwick, top-ranking women tennis players of the world, on their appearance here at the National Championship Saturday. Mr. Baker said during his introductory remarks, "We have as our guests today 2 champions, not only on the tennis courts, but champions of democracy. Although both these ladies are professional players, these matches which are about to play are in no way of a professional nature. Absolutely no financial benefit will accrue to either Miss Marble or Miss Hardwick from this performance. What will be accomplished here today as a result of these matches cannot be evaluated in dollars and cents. This is democracy in action." Now, this article is in, like I said, August 26, 1946, Afro-American. Now, I want to go a few years, move a few years on and get to Althea Gibson. And Althea, in her biography, excuse me one second. Althea, in her autobiography, stated in 1958, "One of the days I remember best at the Cosmopolitan Club was the day Alice Marble played an exhibition match there. I can still remember saying to myself, boy, would I like to be able to play tennis like that. She was the only woman tennis player I'd ever seen that I felt exactly that way about. Until I saw her, I'd always had eyes only for the good men players, but her effectiveness of strike and the power that she had impressed me terrifically. Basically, of course, it was the aggressiveness behind her game that I liked. Watching her smack the effortless serve and then follow it into the net and put the ball away with an overhead as good as any man's. I saw possibilities in the game of tennis that I had never seen before. It's a funny thing. I had no way of knowing then that when the time came for me to be up for an invitation to play at the national championships at Forest Hills, my biggest supporter, aside from a handful of my own people, would be the same Alice Marble." So I just thought that this was a really incredible event that they had in 1944. Bob Ryland just passed away a few months ago at 100 years old, and he used to tell me about this match. And I was very fortunate to hear about these things, but I personally archives all the history that I heard orally. I would always immediately go and archive. And so at this 1944 match, this was a follow-up in 1940. Don Budge played Jimmy McDaniel, the ATA national champion, and Don Budge was the #1 player in the world, and an American player, and a white player, of course, and there was no integration in these matches. And so Don Budge had started this exhibition in 1940 with Jimmy McDaniels, and due to World War II, we missed a couple years, and then in 1944 at the ATA National Championship, which was in Harlem at the Cosmopolitan Tennis Club, and that's the club Althea Gibson started at. This is where Alice Marble and Mary Harwood came, and they played a doubles match against two of the more renowned African American players, Francis Gittins of New York and Lillian Van Buren of Detroit. And they played these ladies in doubles, and they were highly impressed with the level of play that they saw, and felt that with opportunity, there could be outstanding women. And as we know, as the opportunity came, we went from Althea and to quite a few other good players, and finally to the Williams sisters. So that's just a little something. Now, when you want to know, well, who attended these matches? Who attended this 1944 match at the Cosmopolitan Tennis Club? Because, 2,000 people came to the Don Budge Jimmy McDaniel match, and it was 1,500 to 2,000 people at this match also. And these were people that were African-American athletes, celebrities from all around the New York area. At the time in New York, there was like 13 tennis clubs that were members of the ATA in New York. So it was a large association with many of the most prominent Blacks in New York. So I'll let you inject something here, Roxanne, if you'd like to.
Yeah, you know what I want to ask? What about the Peterson sisters?
The Peterson sisters, I think she won the 1946. Matter of fact, Rumena Peters might have won the 1944 Nationals, that particular Nationals. And right. I'm pretty sure, she won, and maybe the 1946 Nationals. So they didn't play in the doubles match at that time, but they played in the Nationals, and I'm pretty sure that she was the national champ that year.
And so, all right, what about Alice Marble? What did she do to elevate Althea Gibson for as in her tennis?
Well, first of all, Alice Marble was a tremendous athlete like Althea. So as I read in her book, and Althea had said that when she saw Alice Marble, that was the first time she really saw, the caliber of tennis player, female tennis player. And so that she decided that she wanted to have a career in tennis pretty much after she saw Alice Marble. And that's when Althea really turned it on and became, the serious tennis player that she became. Up until that point,
And I'm under the impression that Alice, and I think, I'm not too sure whether this is correct, did Alice Marble write an editorial?
Alice Marble wrote a scathing letter to the USTA, just saying that it would just be outright racist to not let Althea Gibson, with her qualifications, into the US Open. So what Althea was confronted with at the time, where Alice Marble sent in, and this was some of what she sent to the USTA in regards to Althea. We can accept the evasion, ignore the fact that no one will be honest enough to shoulder the responsibility for Althea Gibson's probable exclusion from the Nationals. We can just not think about it, or we can face the issue squarely and honestly. It so happens that I tan very heavily in the summer, but I doubt that anyone ever questioned my right to play in the Nationals because of it. Margaret DuPont collects a few freckles. but whoever thought to omit her name for such a reason? The committee would have felt pretty foolish saying, Alice Marble can't play because of that tan, or we can't accept Margaret DuPont. She gets freckles across her nose. It's just as ridiculous to reject Althea Gibson on the same basis. And that's the truth of it. She is not being judged by the yardstick of the ability, but by the fact that her pigmentation is somewhat different. If the field of sports has got to pave the way for all of civilization, let's do it. At this moment, tennis is privileged to take its place among the pioneers for a true democracy, if it will accept that privilege. If it declines to do so, the honor will fall to the next generation, perhaps, but someone will break the ground. The entrance of the Negroes into national tennis is as inevitable as it has proven to be in baseball, in football, or in boxing. There is no denying such talent.
All right, share with us anything that you might know. Getting back to Alice Marble and Althea get into to the what is now the U.S. Open. How was that first experience for Althea Gibson with racism at that time?
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you the ATA part. In 1950 at the ATA Nationals, they were, because Althea won the ATA Nationals 10 years in a row. So she won her first one in 1947 and her last one in 1956. And so, at the 1950 ATA Nationals, it was a question of whether they were going to let Althea into the U.S. National Championship at Farcel. So they were waiting at the ATA Nationals in Ohio at Central State, Wilberforce, Ohio. And they were waiting to get word. And when they got word that Althea was going to be accepted into the tournament, then they had the train that was go to Dayton stop specially in Xenia, Ohio to pick up Althea Gibson and take her, put her on the train so that she could get to New York for the tournament. So it was a tremendous thing for the American Tennis Association, but it was nowhere near what the Jackie Robinson, as the first Black man in baseball. Very few people know of Althea Gibson, unfortunately. One of the most unfortunate things about Althea is like the books, the way her biography, this book I'm holding right here. I always wanted to be somebody, right? And Althea, these books are sent back from the public libraries and from school all the time. Buy them online as used books. It's really, her story is so inspirational that it's absolutely incredible that she is so little known. What's major, not getting off the point, is getting back to Alice Marble. It takes proactive people. And so, it had to be just incredible for this woman to go into Harlem and dedicate herself to this time. And then from that point on, be, like Althea's number one supporter.
And what about what I want to ask, and really because this is Women's History Month, what other woman can you think, Black woman that might have had opportunity to go on to be a really great player back in that era?
Okay, well, there's a woman from Springfield, Massachusetts named Catherine Jones, and she ended up being Catherine Jones Irvis. And she was the ATA champ in 1945. Matter of fact, she won the Nationals at the Cosmopolitan in 1945. And she was also a prominent Black golfer. There were no Black golfers on tour at the time. So she was a woman, she was a top golfer. And Althea kind of patterned herself after this woman, Catherine Jones. It's little known. Most people never heard of her, but like I said, she was an ATA champ, a golfer. And I'm going to send you a picture of her, a very good looking woman, attractive woman, and a very excellent athlete.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to share with us in this conversation? I hope to do. Hope that we can continue this conversation and have talks about the ATA pass.
Yeah, let's we need to do this. We need to do a talk once a month.
Oh yes.
A monthly magazine
or something like that, just to give some of the information about the
Right.
ATA and its history. Thank you, Art. It was good talking to you.
Okay, same here.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.